our esteemed partners from MIT, faculty members and researchers from Jordanian universities and research centers, attendees from around the world. I'm Anwar Al-Halah, the head of Scientific Research Department at Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation. I would like to welcome you in launching event of Abdulhamid Chauman MIT Seed Fund. The Seed Fund is an opportunity to increase the collaboration between Jordanian and MIT researchers. The fund aims to facilitate the mobility of researchers and their students of MIT and their counterparts in Jordan. To talk more about this initiative, today we'll have Mrs. Valentina Qassisi, the CEO of Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation, Professor Philip Khouri, Mr. David Delov, and Professor Christina Orts from MIT. Please, if you have any questions to our speakers, send them via chat. Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation MIT Seed Fund is part of Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation efforts to support scientists, and scientific research. To highlight this, I would like to ask Mrs. Valentina Qassisi, Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation CEO, to talk more about Abdulhamid Chauman's role in this regard.
Thank you, Anwar, welcome our guests from around the world and our speakers from MIT. Let me start by highlighting what the Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation does. We are a non-profit organization that was established by the Arab Bank in 1978 in order to invest in culture and innovation, in order to positively impact the communities that we serve. We have three main pillars. We focus on thought leadership and arts and literature and innovation. A major component of what we do is scientific research, and this is what the foundation was based on. We have, in order to support scientific research in Jordan and the region, we started by the Abdulhamid Chauman Scientific Researchers Award. It was established at the start of the foundation, and it supports or it highlights and recognizes scientific researchers, Arab scientific researchers in the region. And this award is an acclaimed award, and we receive several or hundreds of applications, and it's awarded yearly. In order to build the capacity of scientific research in Jordan, we have established a fund to support scientific researchers from Jordanian universities. And we aim to, in that research, we provide financial and we provide capacity building, and we also look at different policies in Jordan in order to support the legislations and scientific research in Jordan. Recently, we looked at how we can bring it to another level. And gladly, we discussed a collaboration with MIT so that we can see how we can raise the capacity of our researchers in Jordan to work along with researchers from MIT. And of course, everybody knows the research level of MIT and their capacity. And we have signed an agreement where we would support joint research in areas that are of interest to Jordan and our region. We are very excited about this opportunity, and we hope that it would support building the capacity of Jordanians in scientific research, having them more on the international level, in addition to learning new or additional methodologies and methods in scientific research. And hopefully we can see more published papers in acclaimed journals, international journals, and see Jordan advance in its scientific research on a national level. Also, we hope that this will help supporting the innovation where research would if building the capacity of researchers can lead to applied research in addition to taking the research level to innovation. We're very excited about this collaboration, and we look forward to receiving several participation from the Jordanian researchers from all Jordanian universities and research centers. And we look to expand on this opportunity. I want to thank everyone who has been participating with us. We have a good number of participants listening to us today. We will follow up now. My colleague will follow up with this presentation to hear from the MIT experts on the program, the MISTI program, which is MIT International Science and Technology Initiatives, and how we can, researchers can apply to this fund, the process, etc. So I'll leave it to my colleague Anwar to take us through the presentation. But thank you, everyone. And as I mentioned, we are very excited about this agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valentina. MIT is a leading university in the world, ranking one of the best. To talk about MIT, its engagement with Arab world, the importance of this initiative, let me introduce Professor Khouri, who is a Ford International Professor of History and Associate Provost at MIT. Professor Khouri is also a faculty director of the MIT Arab World Program at MIT International Science and Technology Initiatives. In this role, he chairs the MIT Faculty Selection Board of the Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation Seed Fund. Professor Khouri is a political and social historian of the Middle East and is a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Science and the American Association for the Advancement of Science. He is chairman of the Board of Trustees of the American University of Beirut. Professor Khouri has been a key figure in almost all of MIT's engagement in the Arab world for many years. Professor Khouri, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Anwar. That's a very kind introduction. So I'm also delighted to be here for this launch of the exciting new program between the Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation and MIT, the creation of this seed fund. It's just wonderful. I'm going to be brief because my colleagues who follow me have much more important things to say. But let me just begin, if you permit me, to talk a little about the history of MIT's relations with the Arab world. The first students who came in numbers to MIT from the Arab world started coming to MIT in the 1920s. The first major collaboration MIT undertook in the Arab world was with Cairo University in the 1970s, in the late 70s, where we worked with the Cairo University to redesign the entire Faculty of Engineering. That project attracted over 100 MIT faculty to Cairo to work on this project over a number of years. And later, just after the long war in Lebanon in the early 1990s, a major grant allowed MIT to invite to our campus nearly the entire Faculty of Engineering of the American University of Beirut. This took place over 4 summers and enabled AUB engineers to retool after having been cut off from the world and all the new innovations in engineering education and research for the previous 15 years. Then, starting in the early part of the 21st century, our century, MIT entered into a number of major collaborations with research universities and scientific foundations in Kuwait, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Morocco, some of which continue to this day. Some of these collaborations focused on capacity building, and others were exclusively research-oriented collaborations. And it wasn't so long ago that we established the MIT Arab World Program under MISTI to promote education and research opportunities in the Arab region, and first and foremost with Jordan. Now, I can't emphasize enough how important it is for MIT to be engaged with Jordan and other Arab countries. And why? Because we have found that our faculty and students want to know the Arab region better, to engage with the considerable talent found there, and collaborate with that talent to address some of the most complex problems our world faces. MIT doesn't have the capacity to tackle these problems by itself. We have a lot of strength at MIT, but we cannot do it alone. We need collaborators who are equally determined to solve these problems, some of which are remarkably intractable. So we sincerely hope that at MIT, that we can impart knowledge and skills to Jordan, but we also want our students and faculty to acquire the knowledge and skills that Jordan's talent pool of researchers and educators have to offer us. Learning and advancing knowledge at this level is very much a two-way street. Indeed, it's a multi-avenue process. So finally, let me conclude by saying, and this is on a personal note, that my own family has had a long connection to the Chauman family and to the Arab Bank, which I know to be the oldest and most distinguished of banks throughout the Arab world. Members of my own family have been close to the Chauman family for decades and investors in the bank, so I kind of grew up knowing about the bank and now more about the foundation. It means a lot to me, and that MIT will launch today a new initiative with the Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation, which I know to be one of the most prominent and distinguished foundations in Jordan and in the wider Arab region. So I only wish great success for our new undertaking through the seed funds, and I just want to congratulate all our colleagues on this launch. Thank you very much, Anwar.
Thank you, Professor Khoury. MIT International Science and Technology Initiative, MISTI, is MIT's pioneering international education program. MISTI matches MIT students with tailored internship, research, and teaching opportunities abroad. It also facilitates international faculty collaboration and develop partnership with leading companies, research institutes, and universities around the world. To know more about MISTI initiative, overview of MIT Jordan Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation Seed Fund timeline and review process, please welcome with me Mr. David Dolev. He is Associate Director of MISTI and Managing Director of MISTI program in the Middle East. In his role as Assistant Director, David coordinates MISTI's resource development and oversee all of MISTI Global Seed Fund. David also is the founding manager of the MIT Arab World Pilot Program and is responsible for developing projects in this region with MIT students, faculty, corporate partners, academic institutions, foundations, and government institutions. David, the floor is yours.
Shukran, Anwar. Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen. Great to be here, everybody, and thank you very, very much, Anwar. I'm going to share a little bit about MISTI and the MIT ecosystem, our work in Jordan, and the timeline and process for this very exciting new launch of the Seed Fund. So this is the world. Even though many of us are sitting at home, I work at MIT, part of the MIT community, and we look at the world and we see a universe of challenges and opportunities. Challenges that we feel committed to collaborating with our partners around the world to try to solve. And we do this in a unique MIT way, hands in mind, with a commitment to make a better world, working across disciplines in a way that we know has worked for us. We also know when we look at all of this, it's not enough. In order to collaborate with you and our partners around the world, we need to have a deep cultural and regional understanding of the world, especially today in this time of Corona. We see everybody deals with it differently, and we need to understand one another to really move forward in these global challenges. And that's what we do at MISTI. We take the deep science technology at MIT. We give our students and our faculty the opportunities to have deep global engagements, and through this develop global leaders and leadership that really can bring solutions for real world global challenges. We work around the world, and very excited to be working in Jordan. And what do? We have internships where students are doing 10 to 12 week internships in companies in our labs around the world, 500 to 600 every summer. And for several years, we've been doing work in Jordan These are just some examples. We have students taking classes abroad. We offer the Institute resources for working globally. We have students teaching in high schools and colleges, STEM and entrepreneurship. Also something we've been doing for several years in Jordan, some examples. And we have our global seed funds, where we support faculty collaboration between MIT faculty and faculty around the world. And very excited to be here today to launch the new seed fund. Now, what it is we're trying to do? This is part of the Arab world. As Professor Khoury mentioned, we're trying to build critical cultural and scientific connection between MIT and the Arab world to really offer our students the opportunity to learn deeply about this region and to bring you and all of our partners around the world real value. The new Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation Seed Fund is part of MISTI's global seed funds. We have one general fund in country funds around the world. And this supports all of our global engagement at MIT. So proposals have to be submitted jointly by an MIT and a Jordanian faculty member. Applicants are encouraged to involve undergraduate students in their projects. And the funds are really intended to be used during the initial phase of the international collaboration. And Professor Ortiz will share in a few minutes some more details about this. The aim is that these grants will lead to more grant awards afterwards, and valuable long-term relationships between MIT and Jordan. So what's the timeline? We're having this launch event. September 14th will be a call for proposals, which you'll all receive. Then we're encouraging you to connect MIT and Jordanian faculty together to submit a proposal. Proposals are due on December 14th. Then there's an evaluation selection process between December and March. You'll be notified by mid-April, an agreement, and then work together on these seed fund projects between May 2021 and January 2023. So what is the selection process? All of you will have sent in the applications. In the first stage is a scientific committee with representatives from MIT, different faculty. So basically the math faculty at MIT will look at 2 proposals from Germany, 3 from Jordan, 1 from China, and they will assess the accuracy and importance of the scientific problem. Then these go to a country selection board, so the specific board for the Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation Seed Fund. They will take these scientific reviews into consideration and decide which grants to award. The decisions are all made by MIT faculty with input from the Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation. There are specific priority areas for this fund. Hopefully you'll all be able to find some way, some angle to apply via one of these categories, and these are all on our website. So all of this seed fund and this new Jordan Seed Fund really enables us to continue to move together to really cultivate global future leaders, global leaders, promote faculty collaboration, and connect MIT with all of our important partners in Jordan and beyond the world. I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Anwar Riemann Valentina, in the Arab Bank, and the Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation for all of your work and collaboration and pioneering on this, and also many of our other partners that have helped guide us in Jordan over these past years, Osama Hussein in Petra Engineering, Dr. Tamam Mango in the Crown Prince Foundation, Khazim Zorikat in the MIT Arab Alumni Association, and Dana Diman Tariq in Injaz. And I look forward to receiving all your applications. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Now, how to prepare a successful application, find your MIT partner, and overview of the seed fund application will be presented by Professor Christine Ortiz, past Dean of Graduation Education at MIT. Professor Ortiz is Professor of Material Science and Engineering at MIT and founder of Station One, a new nonprofit educational venture launched to pursue science and technology to foster an equitable, creative, prosperous, and sustainable world. Her research expertise in the area of multi-scale design and mechanics of biological and bio-inspired materials and manufacturing, and has over 180 publications and 30 national and international honors, including the Presidential Early Career Award in Science and Engineering. Professor Ortiz has also applied 6 times to Misty Global Seed Fund and was awarded grants for all of her applications. For any questions about application to Professor Ortiz, please leave them in chat. Professor Ortiz, the floor is yours.
Thank you and welcome. I'm delighted to see the launch of this new seed fund. I've gotten to see the launch of a number of them and seen what an enormous impact this can have, both from a grantee perspective and also from the other side. I've also been a reviewer as well for the seed funds. So the power of these grants are incredible, and we really seek to establish a foundation for a trajectory of collaboration, long-term collaboration. And so some of the things that you might want to consider, first I'll talk a little bit about the logistics of the grant and then some general things about the grant. But the first thing is how to find a partner at MIT. And so there's a couple ways to go about that. Generally, each MIT is divided into a number of disciplinary departments and interdisciplinary centers. All of those departments and centers have websites, and generally they will have a description of the ongoing research in the department. And also you can look at the listing of faculty and then go to the faculty websites as well. But a good place to start is the departmental websites with the summary of the research emphasis there. And generally, yeah, as each faculty will generally have their own website as well. I would also encourage to look at the centers. MIT has over 60 centers of interdisciplinary and focused research. And so you may find areas of interest, emerging areas of interest in those centers. And you'll also find groupings of people working together on specific research topics. And again, the goals of this seed fund are to really have all the elements of setting a foundation for a long-term continued collaboration that will go on after the completion of the seed fund. So examples of what the selection board is looking for in each of the sections are the intellectual contribution of the proposal, the topic, and the likelihood of making an important intellectual contribution to a field. We're looking for teams and projects that are new or entering a new phase. So it's okay to have collaborated before, but this should be something that is reasonably new. A balance between both participating teams. We've had grants where there has been no collaboration before, or there has been collaboration before, and this is a new phase. And if there's no collaboration before, but sometimes people have known each other for a long period of time and wanted to do something, but haven't together, haven't had the opportunity, and that's fine. But if you have not collaborated before, a suggestion is to really flesh out exactly what is going to be done together. So a balanced exchange between participating teams. I would say we look for complementarity between the participating principal investigators and researchers and teams. And so one recommendation is to explicitly describe how the two groups, two teams, are complementary to the objectives of the proposal. And that includes things like methodology. It's generally fine to have two teams that are in the same discipline, for example, two researchers in electrical engineering or chemistry. But generally, we'd like to see some synergy and complementarity, and that could be in the methodologies and the expertise. And so definitely explaining that explicitly and how bringing those two together will achieve the objectives of the research objectives of the proposal. Misty is super committed to fostering global education for students. And so we would very much like to see undergraduate and graduate students involved in a meaningful way. And that includes engagement between the opportunities for engagement between the students, as well, all different forms of engagement. It's helpful generally. You don't have to identify those students, but if you do have identified students, for example, so MIT has a program called Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, which most undergraduate students participate in. And so a lot of times the faculty at MIT will already have or can recruit undergraduate students to participate in these projects. MIT has many more graduate students than undergraduate students. And so generally also it's helpful if faculty on both sides can identify both undergraduate students and graduate students by name who will participate. Although not necessary to identify by name, it does strengthen the proposal to see a number of students involved from both sides. And lastly, we asked for, just in the general comments, lastly, we asked for that there's a plan for the project to be sustainable beyond the grant period. And so that involves things like identifying supplementary funding sources, drafting a list of agencies and foundations that the team is eligible to apply for, specific RFPs. A lot of faculty at MIT are generally applying to our federal funding agencies like the National Science Foundation, the National Institutes of Health. And so if there are specific grant calls that are on the horizon for a faculty on this side, then that can be included, same as on the internet on both sides. And so explicitly mentioning funding agencies, specific RFPs and calls, as well as plans for sustainability beyond the grant period. We would like that. So again, this is thinking about approaching matching with each other on both sides. Generally, you want to think about synergy and expertise. Also think about the reasonability of completion of what's proposed. So it needs to fit into the scope of the timelines and reasonability of access to anything that's needed, instrumentation, etc. So we look at these research, now I'll just get into the research part. We look at these research as research proposals. And so when we think about intellectual contributions to the field, just some basic principles about writing this portion of the grant, clearly articulating the research question and research objectives, generally without using too much jargon, because our panels are cross-disciplinary. We will have expert reviewers, and then the panel itself, the review panel, is generally across disciplines because we have grants across all the disciplines. So it's generally very helpful not to both speak to both audiences, the expert and the broader cross-disciplinary panel. Articulating what is the current practice for the proposals that you're writing, including all of the relevant citations and the limitations of the current practice. Explicitly articulating the new approach and the research question is differentiated from the literature. Why is the research important? So what is the impact? What difference will it make? And what's the timeline for the research? And for this seed fund, sort of like the future trajectory, right? So where that research can go and why funding this research would be a great foundation for a long-term development of a long-term project. Okay, and then I think we can go to the application. It's quite not a very long application, but I can give some guidelines for how to fill it out. And I think David is gonna pull it up. Okay, if not,
Can someone let me pull up the application, share my screen?
No, I can just walk through it in words. So the application involves a brief abstract of 250 words written for non-experts, a history of the collaboration. And again, if there's been collaboration before, you want to articulate what is new or what is the new phase of the work. Describe explicitly the complementarity of the work. And I would think about things like methodology, instrumentation, approaches, expertise. Also complementarity is also included from an international perspective, how that can contribute, having PIs in different countries, how that would complement the work as well. It's not necessary, but it's helpful. And then describe in detail the proposed project. And so funding generally can cover convening costs, travel, and collaboration. Funds are not used to cover salaries or materials or long-term stays, but they can cover all of those other things regarded to collaboration. Then you can include the technical information for the scientific reviewers. Again, an expectation is that citations would be included in this part of it and that it should be pretty coherently written. It's about a couple pages, 1,500 words. Then describe in detail the exchanges and activities planned. So this would be, specifically what are the dates of the planned meetings, how many meetings, who's going to attend them, how long are they going to be, where are they going to be, and so really outlining that clearly and in detail. And it's helpful in this section to include what students are going to be involved too, as well as others, partners, etc. And also how many people from each institution. Then the next set is describe additional activities, how will they be funded, and the project sustainability, which I talked about before, plans to apply for other seed or research funds, etc. And from the MIT side, definitely one of the main ways that we involve students is through the Undergraduate Research Opportunities website called UROP, U-R-O-P. You can also go to the UROP site and see projects that are posted for undergraduates. So that's another way to see what some of the recent research is that faculty are hiring students for. Let's see what else. And then just going through all the other funding questions, specific funding that's being applied for. The project field and subfield, it's helpful to sort of, most projects will be disciplinary in nature. I think that if the project field is not a classical discipline, I would elaborate a little bit more. So if it's cross-disciplinary, you might want to elaborate. So say that it's a cross-disciplinary topic, we just want to elaborate what are the specific disciplinary fields that go into it, and so that we can sort of match it with the departments that exist at MIT. Overall, the application is not very long, and again, it has a two-tier review. One with a series of experts who write written reviews. Those written reviews then go to a panel, cross-disciplinary panel, that takes into account all those reviews and does a secondary review, and then the panel comes together to rank and make the final decisions. Generally, it's a pretty competitive process. We get pretty amazing applications for all of our seed funds, and they really have had just an enormous impact on stimulating collaborative research, not only for the period of the grant, but beyond that. And so I wish you all the best of luck in applying, and happy to take any questions, and extremely excited about the possibilities for what this will do for our collaborative research.
Thank you, Professor Christine. Would you like to answer the questions from your end, or I read them and you answer?
Sure, maybe you can pick one and I can answer.
Okay, first question we have from Muhammad Saleh. Do we choose the topic to work with, or the MIT partner choose the topic?
Yes, so that's generally this is joint. So generally the topic is something that both principal investigators are interested in and develop together. And the topics are open. They're pretty much anything that that both sides are working on.
Firas Kafaiha, areas and themes of collaboration. If you visit Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation, chauman.org, under MIT page, you will find full details about the initiative. And also, if you visit the Misty webpage. Khulud Abu Abeid, is there any special consideration should be taken when we write proposal? Any special consideration?
Yeah. David, do you have any thoughts on that? I don't think so.
I think that, what's important is it's really, we see that it's both synergetic and it's collaborative, including students. Those are the big key things.
What is the required language for the research? It's English. And what is the link that we will send? The link that we will send it to. The application will be open at 14 of September. So the link will be available on Abdulhamid Chauman Foundation website and MIT website. Tail Hassan, can we collaborate with ongoing research at the MIT centers, as this would create future advanced collaboration?
Yeah, so the way that MIT is structured is that faculty have appointments in the primary departments and units. So we have about 40 departments, and they are in 5 schools. And then we have around 60 cross-disciplinary centers. And so faculty also have appointments within the centers. And so so generally you'll have a collaboration with a faculty or researcher, and they will have affiliations or appointments within departments and centers. And so that's sort of how to do that. Yes, and so you could go to a center and see that you're really interested in the work, and then identify who are the researchers working in that center.
Nabil Ayub, is there an upper limit on the seed fund amount per project? Yes, it's about $30,000 US. Ala Ashdifat, is the undergraduate engagement is mandatory for success the application?
David, I don't think so, right?
It's not mandatory, but definitely highly encouraged. And when the selection board sees all the proposals, that's one of the things they're taking into consideration.
Ayat Nashwan, do we encourage proposal to engage humanities and social science with natural science, such as social work and urban planning development? You mentioned multidisciplinary, but I'm not sure what you have meant exactly.
Yeah, David, these topics are open, right?
There is, yeah, there is a list of topics. I mean, I can, it's on our website. I don't know if you want me to share it again. I can share it. This is the list of topics and priority areas for this specific seed fund. So it's very wide. Yeah.
So I can just comment that there's opportunities to integrate science and engineering with the humanities and arts and social sciences in all of these areas. And for most of them, it would be highly beneficial.
على اشتفات, I would ask that can a Jordanian team of 2 researchers submit 2 researches?
Yeah, so you can list more than one principal investigator from each institution. You just need at least one from each institution to be the lead, but you can definitely have more than one on each side.
What are the criteria for the initial screening?
Yeah, so so they were the ones that I mentioned. So I'll just go through them again. So intellectual contribution and new intellectual contribution to the field, entering a new phase or new, balanced exchange between participating teams, complementarity between participating teams, involvement of students, and sustainability beyond the life of the grant.
Dr. Rana Abu Taima, is it possible to include more collaborators from overseas universities, not only from Jordan and MIT?
That's definitely possible. I would recommend thinking about how that collaboration would enhance the collaboration between Jordan and MIT, and also that those 2 partners from Jordan and MIT have a substantive role in the proposal. But definitely I would think it's okay to include additional collaborators as long as they're enhancing the work between Jordan and MIT.
Ghufran Abu Diye, should the teams collaborating be only from universities, or can an organization be one of the participating teams?
David, is that allowed to have a non-academic lead organization?
So definitely the 2 applicants have to be academic, university or research institution. There could be other partners that are involved in the project, but there has to be one MIT primary investigator and one Jordanian primary investigator, either from a research institute or from another university, and others could be involved.
Is there any mandate on the output of the seed fund, like publications, patent, other funds?
There's no mandate, but it's highly encouraged, and it's extremely common that publications and grants emerge from this proposal. And there's a final progress report that is required as well at the end to describe the outcomes of the project.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, David. Yeah, we have more questions. Are the program encouraging early career faculty members?
Yes, so we definitely, we have faculty of all levels. And so we try to get a balance between early career, mid, and senior. So definitely encourage early careers to apply.
Okay, can the application include a fund to purchase equipment and research consumables?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, no, it's basically funding the travel of the faculty and students. You can't buy any materials with these funds.
Is it okay to collaborate to organize online interactive conferences?
Yes.
Thank you, David and Christine. At the end, I would like to thank you once again for your attendance. Also, I would like to thank Mrs. Valentina Qsisi, Professor Khouri, Professor Ortiz, and Mr. David. We encourage everyone to apply to this unique opportunity and looking forward to receiving your application. I and David will remain at your disposal for any inquiry regarding the application. Thank you.